Hello, I'm Alix.
I'm Kelly.
And this is the LitJoy Podcast. Okay, for this Fun Friday, we are very excited. We have two special guests with us today. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hi, my name is Hayley, and I'm a cosplayer. And
I'm Michael, and I am also a cosplayer.
Perfect. Okay, so we on our LitJoy Fun Friday, we ask our special guests to come with about 3 books or stories that have deeply impacted their life. And so we are excited to jump right in, and you folks can go eat every other one, or just one of you do all 3. You get to decide how this goes.
Okay, I'll go first.
Perfect.
So I have my stack over here. So the first one I'm going to mention is My Life in France by Julia Child. Julia Child is just about one of my favorite people ever. She really didn't discover her passion until much later in her life. She was had no idea what she was doing, and she just followed a passion and was really excited about something that meant a lot to her, and just kind of figured out how to do it. And then sharing her passion with so many other people, just brought a lot of happiness and joy. And I feel that's sometimes the kind of energy I try to have, as a cosplayer, is we're all self-taught. We didn't go to special schools or anything to learn these skills to make these costumes. And we just like sharing. It's like Julia's making the stuff on the French Chef, and I'm posting TikTok and YouTube updates about here's how I'm making this dress and here's how I do it. And one of her quotes is, you'll never know everything about anything, especially something you love, which for my completionist, perfectionist brain really helps me calm down and be like, well, how boring it would be if I knew everything about a hobby. That'd be so dull. There'd be nothing left to learn. So rather than looking at it like, oh, I don't know anything, I'm so behind, it's, oh, I get to learn. I get to grow. I get to learn in a very growth-oriented mindset. And that's, I feel, who Julia is. So that's my first book.
I love it. We love that book. We read it for one of our book clubs.
Yay.
I think it was one of your
It was my first book club. Of Kelly joining Kelly's book club was that book that we read. And so
I love it.
I know. That was our first time meeting before LitJoy ever was even a thought.
Yeah. So
we have a special place in our heart for that book too.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a good one. It's a good title.
We do.
I love her so much. Love her book.
okay, I'll go next.
Perfect. Okay, next.
Oh my goodness, this giant book. So I talked about this in our interview too, but I don't know if you can see it. But it's the Game of Thrones costume book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It is just like a feast. I can barely open it. It's just a feast for your eyes. But,
amazing.
It's like a coffee table book.
It's a huge coffee table. It's massive.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I wanted to talk about a Game of Thrones book, and then when I thought of which one was my favorite, it was it's this one. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. I've read just about all of them. And I just can't get enough of this book. We keep it upstairs. And then it's just something I just love to flip through, and then something I just love to flip through to get inspiration on different techniques on how to do embroidery, beading, construction, color schemes,
weathering,
different ideas about different fabrics, brocades. It's all very luxurious, but then there's also ones that are very dirty. But yeah, I love this book. It's very expensive, but but I would recommend it to anyone that loves costumes. I just think it's just absolutely incredible.
Amazing.
I want to look through it. Totally fascinating. I love those kinds of books that are just so visual. I won't. Don't tempt me.
So my next one is a Wizard of Earthsea, which I love, by Ursula Le Guin. It's a tiny little book and it goes by really quickly. But something I really love about this series is that often, the villain is this terrible person who's just out there. It's external. We have to kill them. We have to destroy them in some way. But in this series, it's the villain is your own darkness, your own like ego and your own arrogance, and Ged has to go find his shadow and rather than destroying it, incorporates it. Oh, spoiler alert! Gosh, sorry. But incorporates it into himself, and so my real job is I'm a mental health therapist, and so really incorporating a lot of like the good and the maybe the darker aspects of ourselves. Is maybe we don't have to banish all of that and put it in a box and ignore it and pretend it's not there, but how can we like hold it in our hands at the same time and be like I'm just a person. And I feel like this and the other books in the series really capture that feeling. So it's not just a baddie, a ghoul out in the sea. It's you. You are the enemy. So I love that a lot.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one. I love that. This is my favorite part, just hearing all the books I haven't heard of for the first time. All right, keep them coming.
Next one I brought up is a Batman book called The Long Halloween. I am a huge graphic novel fan. I love reading graphic novels. I was trying to think of which one was my favorite, and I'm pretty sure this is my favorite. I have so many favorites that it was hard to pick, but it's like a classic Batman detective graphic novel where it takes place over a full year, and it's called The Long Halloween because something happens on Halloween, and the entire graphic novel, it's pretty thick for a graphic novel, takes place over Halloween. The art is like also really cool. It's really like dark and spooky, and I also like the vibes of that. I like that it's like a little bit more gothic style too. So yeah, I would highly recommend it. It's really enjoyable.
Ooh. Can you tell us who the author is?
Oh yes, the author is Jeph Loeb and the artist is Tim Sale.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
I love graphic novels. It's kind of something I've gotten into more recently, and they're a delight. Yeah. It was kind of like what you were talking about, Michael, where it's like, I feel like I could finish a book in a weekend, like that mini success, like where I was like, I did it, I read a book. Graphic novels, they count. Graphic novels are great for that.
I also feel like graphic novels are such a good way to get kids into reading.
Totally.
It's like such a bridge into exploring more books, which I love.
Yeah. I love
as like my day job, I'm a librarian that works with like teens. So we call graphic novels gateway books because they're like the gateway into like reading more books, because teens that are like hesitant readers usually gravitate to graphic novels or manga or just because it seems less intimidating. I know for me, that was always kind of a thing for me. I like blocks of pages was kind of intimidating to like my brain. And like, so when I got into graphic novels, I was, like you said, I was able to read them like so much faster, and I was like able to I was kind of got me into more of actual big book text reading. So yeah.
Okay. Final book.
Well, the final book, I don't have anything to pull up, but I was just going to say, I think one of the books that impacted me the most growing up was Harry Potter. When me and Michael met, it's because he started a Harry Potter club in college. And so I feel like our whole relationship started by really enjoying the same thing. We both had like a lot of Harry Potter knowledge trivia in our heads. So we kind of bonded on that.
Yeah.
I don't really love everything that the author is like saying nowadays. So it's like, that's kind of a challenging relationship there. But just when it comes to like books that shaped me as a person, I think that was one of them. That was like another big thing that got me into cosplay, because I like really wanted to dress up as the book characters. That was like very exciting, especially like obscure characters in the books that only, like only the people that are really deep into that series would know. So yeah, I think just the impact it's had on me has been very like, very special.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, and just have acknowledged how Harry Potter was a series that welcomed in millions of new readers into the space of reading and fandom. And not everyone is still in the space of that fandom, but it was such a great introduction into community around a book. And I think that you see that with other ones. I think Lord of the Rings is one that did that many years ago and that continues to do that. I think you see that with Game of Thrones. I think you see it with, with Twilight, and like that like YA paranormal genre, ACOTAR and Sarah J. Maas, you see it. And so I appreciate you acknowledging just how impactful that fandom and series was. And I think just millions and millions of people that resonates. And, but the idea of finding real life friends and your people through stories, like that's universal. That's just the gift of books. And so I appreciate you sharing that for sure.
I'm like, that was on my list.
Yeah.
When our very first episode for this podcast, we both wrote up our top 10 most influential books in our life. Mm-hmm. Didn't share them until we sat down to record. And that was for sure on my list because it's exactly what you said, all the things. It was like a found family in that whole culture. I was at all the launch parties. You know, I was creating costumes. I've done all the things. And it is so fun to dive into that world and to just feel a part of it and to feel that magic with other people. So absolutely. I love that it's on your list. So thank you.
We really appreciate, we really appreciate you guys taking the time to come and do this little fun Friday and for sharing some of your creative inspiration or story inspiration with us. So thank you.
Thank you guys.
Fun. Thank you.
Thank you, reader, for listening to this episode of the Literary Podcast. Please remember to rate and review us.
And like a good book, recommend us to your friends.